Hello, my name's Judy Tate and I love colour and soft pastels, in particular unisons. Today I'd like to show you how I create a garden scene from initial sketch, thought processes through to the final piece. It starts off with me with a colourful underpainting using acrylic products. That's then my launch pad to the soft pastels that I then use both wet and dry in the painting. I have tried to make these videos as short and punchy as possible. I hope you enjoy your pastel paintings as much as I enjoy creating mine, and I hope you find some useful snippets in what I do. Thank you. And just to explain the materials I'm going to be using today, starting with one of my sketchbooks, using today a sketch I did this summer in my garden with featuring Alliums really, and Acrylic and various other plants. The way in which I work is really, I'm treating this as a colour sketch, obviously notes as to colour, what's happening in the background, noises, whatever catches my attention. I'm also doing a pencil sketch, or sketches should I say, it's really to check out the composition and what I'm thinking about and what the focal point is. I want to achieve a pretty chaotic underpainting, so I'm going to use various acrylic products. In this case, I'm going to be using acrylic fluids. There are many makes. I'm using golden, great colours, as well as acrylic gouache. Again, there are many colours, and again, the colour features high pigment, and acrylic inks, various makes in this case, whatever does the job in terms of colour for me. I'm also going to make sure I have to hand mark making equipment, sticks, mark makers, bamboo, old credit cards that are cut up, whatever I think I might need in that moment, as well as a water spray. Pastel wise, I start limited, but that repertoire of pastels will expand as I go on, so that's just a starting point, and they are, I think, 99% unison pastels. And then this is my setup. My pastels, pastel pencils, my sketch, my notes on composition, very much to hand. So there we are, ready to get going. I hope you enjoy my very personal creative journey. Okay, so let's get started with the underpainting. First of all, I'm using, on this occasion, watercolour paper, and I always mask off, and I may change that masking several times during the painting process. I'm also getting some bits and pieces ready around me that I might use whilst doing the underpainting, bit of bubble wrap of different sizes, cling film, and so on. Then, bearing in mind the darks and the lights of my sketch and the rough form composition I think the painting is going to take, I'm going to start applying various acrylic products. So that's fluids, inks and gouache. Also different mark making tools. Bit of splattering is always good. That's water and acrylic fluid on brush, and as you can see I'm being fairly vigorous, so don't do this anywhere near any carpets or walls that may not like to have acrylic paint on them. Doing just a bit of random printing with bubble wrap. You'll see in the finished painting that most of this may or will disappear, but it gives me a great starting point in terms of causing some chaos and allowing me to then go back in with the pastels and not be too tight and too realistic in what I do. I really am wanting more of an abstract feel to my painting. Water spray always to hand is going to work most effectively with the acrylic inks, because obviously they're the most fluid of the three products I'm talking about. That's inks most fluid, then fluids, acrylic fluids that is, and then acrylic gouache. Then stand back, consider, is this what I want? No, I obviously decided I wanted more colour, a bit of soaking up where I maybe don't want the ink so dark. This is very, very loose, what I'm doing here, very much the starting point. And so now we're ready to go on. Getting started with soft pastels. I've got some clean masking tape on a board on my easel, and I'm thinking about what the heck I'm going to do next. That's my initial choice of pastels. It may change drastically as I go along, but it keeps me to my initial plan anyway as I get started. I'm really just at the moment trying to break up some of those larger shapes which inevitably when using water with acrylic products are going to form. You see me keep looking to the right. Obviously what I'm doing is constantly referring to my sketches and my reference material. Using some pastel pencils, maybe to start getting a clearer idea of my plan of where I'm positioning everything. And I think the main thing I personally would take from this is that I am constantly moving around the painting. Try not to get too stuck in one area, which I personally can very easily do, and really I'm trying to keep the whole of the painting together rather than, as I say, focusing on one point. As you can see, I've started to put a few indicators into where I think my alliums are going to go, constant referencing to my sketch, but I am not using photographs. I might do further down the line if I really feel my sketches aren't giving me enough information, but at the moment I really don't want to, because that would mean detail, that would mean me getting bogged down, and I'm hoping I'll have a more successful painting by not doing that for as long as possible. As you can see, again, I'm moving all the way around the painting, trying to break up with negative spacing, negative painting, the larger areas of acrylic products that my underpainting gave me, and just very slowly getting a feel of where this painting's going. Most of the bubble wrap print, by the way, will disappear, but I just find it so nice to use it to create different shapes. It's a good launch pad, I suppose, for what I'm going to be doing with the pastels and pastel pencils. So now really I'm carrying on in the same vein. I want to keep pulling the painting out of what's on the watercolour paper to date. A lot of negative shapes being put in, quite a lot of breaking up of larger blocks of colour which I needed to refine somehow with the pastels. And of course the beauty of soft pastels is they will clearly cover whatever is underneath. So dependent on the sort of stroke you use will depend on the effect you get. So I can use lighter or darker pastels on a passage of ink that I might want to break up, and I can, with a light application, get a dusting, shall we say, of soft pastel, whereas a heavy application will become a fully opaque colour in its own right. So what I'm trying to do with my marks is vary them. In fact, you'll see me at this moment, I'm actually using a little bit of water on a paintbrush to paint into the pastel to move it around a bit. That will sometimes slightly darken the colour of the pastel, but for me that's perfect. So again, as you see, I'm keep working around the painting. It's not something I think about these days. It's become a habit not to get too involved in one passage. As you can see, those leaves mid foreground that I was painting with a little bit of water just now, I've moved on from those and I'm concentrating on other things. The foreground is becoming more important now in terms of making it more realistic as an organic garden scene. I often get asked about blending and cross-hatching. It's not I do not do a lot of either thing. What I do occasionally do is use a bit of chopped up pipe insulation, and I use that just to push the pastel around a bit without using my fingers. I also sometimes use a very hard bristle brush to remove some of the particles of the pastel. Other options for removing pastel, sometimes I will use a traditional eraser. The other thing I do occasionally do, but you have to be very, very careful, is use a scalpel and scrape through the dust layer. But I do advise that you use caution there, because you do risk cutting the paper surface. So I've got to the stage now that I don't think there's an awful lot more to do, and it's at that point that I tend to stand back, put the board to one side, possibly change the masking tape if it's messy so I can get a clear border, and then go on to the final stage, hopefully, of painting this scene. So now I need to assess where I'm at and what I think needs doing, changing, adding, subtracting. As you saw there, I just used an old mount to cut up mount to give myself a clearer idea of how it looks with the border. And having stood back from it, I can see there's quite a few things I still need to work on. The foreground leaves need a bit more work, as do the alliums, so there's still quite a lot to do. Just there focusing a little bit more on what's behind, and I think that is just suggested by the mid-tone blue that you can see peeping through. Back to the leaves in the foreground, what's happening between the leaves in the foreground, the relationship between the leaves in the foreground and the flower heads further up, re-establishing some of the stems. For all that I do want a somewhat abstract feel, I don't want the sense that, for example, the allium heads are floating in space with no grounding. There needs to be a feel that the stems are coming up through the vegetation that's below. So reiterating some of the lines, some of the leaves, looking for other areas that don't quite work for me. And in fact, that's what I'm doing most of the time, scanning my painting and thinking, okay, where I've got to, what is most in need of some more pastel or negative spaces, or even wet brush to move the pastel pigment slightly. Obviously feeling there that the alliums on the right hand side are slightly too dominant. I want the eye to be pulled to that main allium on the left hand side a third of the way in, and everything else I would ideally like to relate to that. Standing back from this now, whilst doing this voice overlay for the video, I'm really liking that bit of turquoise that's peeping through far right, in the middle, basically midway up. I'd be interested to see whether as I go on with this video, whether I've spotted that as I'm painting. No, obviously I felt I wanted to put some colour in the right hand half, and that is way too strong. I can see that that's not going to work at all, and so I think fairly soon I'll be going back to that to knock it back. It'd be interesting to see how I did actually knock it back. Again, going back, looking at the marks, there are lots more negative spaces. The bubble wrap marks are beginning to disappear. And some of the marks you can see are actually some of the dots you can see are pastel. So that orange is now staring. Oh, there we go. So that was a hard bristle brush just to knock out some of the pastel dust. And then gone back in with a more subdued colour. I'm still not sure about that, but that may be a last minute change. We shall see. So for now, that's it. I'm going to put this painting to one side. I'm enjoying it and I'm enjoying looking at it, but I know it needs some further tweaks. That may not come to me for some days or weeks. So for now, thank you for watching and goodbye.